Today we have with us Denise Funke, who is a very recent graduate from the MSP. I was very, very glad you could come and join us tonight. Denise, would you give a little background of where you are, what your work at ministry looks like?
Sure. I'm a consecrated woman in Regnum Christi, so I have vows of poverty, chastity, obedience, and I get sent around the world to different ministry opportunities. And I'm currently assigned to a boarding school in about an hour south of Boston in Rhode Island, the northern part of Rhode Island. So working with 6th through 11th grade girls who come from Latin American countries and Asia to study for 1 year, their regular school year, and learn English as well. So it's a big challenge for them to be away from home, to detox from their smartphones and social media and all of that, to live with a bunch of other girls with the individuality that there is now. So it's pretty challenging, but I love it. I actually love working more in a boarding school than in a day school.
Wonderful. So that, yeah, I can see, especially nowadays, that is not an easy ministry, but a very worthwhile ministry. Tell a little bit, you just finished the MSP this May, and it was lovely to meet at graduation, which is always so special. Tell us a little bit, what are pieces of the MSP that was really helpful for your work at ministry as you work with these young, or young women, young girls?
Right. I think for me, it would be like, on one hand is the knowledge and the skills that I received and was able to practice, and the other was personal growth, because DMU focuses so much on you as a person growing. It makes a huge impact because it's not just theoretical, it's constantly integrating into your person and into your ministry. Every single week, you're supposed to go through these exercises that, if you do them, they're so helpful. Because I was constantly analyzing, how do I work? I had already worked in schools for 28 years before I took the MSP program, right? So you get pretty good at what you're doing, and you kind of have your system. So it was really wonderful to question myself again and to say, why am I doing what I'm doing? Is what I'm doing working? Evidence-based practices is a huge thing. First thing you'll learn in your first course, right? Is there evidence saying this is the most effective way to do this? So that was hugely helpful. And I would say, if I could just give the quick top 5 things that I learned, was intervention skills, absolutely, in intervening with people, how to speak to people, how to be empathetic, and all those things. Human development, excellent course, amazing, and the personal reflection that you go through that to really help you understand how you develop, which in schools is absolutely essential, right? And helping parents understand that. And then the common psychological problems that I think I shared with all of my colleagues, like, we're encountering so many people who are struggling with mental health. And so to know, what is that? How do I refer? How would I help somebody get help? Because I'm not a clinical psychologist. That was extremely helpful. I use that, I would say, literally every week. I use that, and even the chart that I made in one of my courses, I'm still using. And then the psychology of groups was unexpected. I didn't expect that to be so helpful. And living in a building full of women, and the psychology of group and how that works has been really helpful. I passed on a lot of things to my team to help us to know how to form the group. And then the leadership courses that we had were phenomenal. It has helped me immensely in leading my team, because I lead the formation team. So just, there wasn't a single course that wasn't useful, even your class on statistics, which was brutal but necessary. They're excellent.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Thank you so much for sharing. So tell me the group, the psychology of the groups. You're working in a group setting in the classroom. Is there like something on inside, something that really helps you, like, you're understanding the functioning of the person better, right? It's a new way of placing behavioral phenomena that you see. See something that stood out that was really like an aha.
I think groupthink. At the time we were studying it, no. They did a wonderful assignment comparing the Apollo disaster and crisis to the Challenger. And we studied the transcripts and everything and tried to understand what was going on. And when I got to the classroom in summertime to start setting up, and the kids were arriving, seeing teenage girls and how groupthink affects, unbelievable. So I've been able to really help this whole year we worked on as a team to kind of dissect that a little bit and try to break that apart and help the girls themselves be aware of, hey, what do you think right? And are you able to speak up, and to try to teach them how to create an environment where everybody feels free to speak up and everybody's heard and listened to, and that we try to be rational in coming to conclusions. It was amazing to work on peer pressure, actually. It
Wow.
really, really was effective.
Great. Well, that is wonderful insight, and great that you were able to gain the skills, right, to just be more effective. And then the other piece that you mentioned was the personal growth, right? Especially if you're in a challenging work or ministry environment, self-awareness and self-growth and well-being is an essential part to being able to be effective in the ministry or in a work setting. And do you want to share a thought related to that?
Yeah, I think when I started the program 2.5 years ago, I finished my capstone in December, and so I wasn't expecting this ministry change. So I was much more in one-on-one spiritual direction, pastoral counseling. So all of my personal reflections was on that, and I was building how I wanted to be a better spiritual director, how I wanted to do better in ministry of retreats. And so then when I had my change last summer, I was like, shoot, I did all this work, and now it's shifted. And I think the leadership courses helped me most to really question, how am I going to lead this team? So I went back to my notes and went back to some of the qualities of leaders that are evidence-based, which was also very interesting. So there's so many books of leadership out there. So this was so refreshing, because I had studied so many books on leadership, and this just really got to the core of things and the heart, and wasn't a straitjacket. And so I used that very much to say, okay, who am I leading? What are they like? Who am I? And what's the best way to have a good leader? Follower, which is a word that we use in the course, which isn't like followers like you use in the world, but the people that are part of the team, right? So I was able to change completely how I lead meetings. I've never led meetings in the way that I have this year, and it was really, really good. And I got very good feedback at the end of the year of how effective it was and how it helped for them in personal growth and reflection, as well as a team and as individuals.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm glad it was such a great blessing. And we'll look through the overview of the program quickly. I will share my screen on just kind of looking at the main parts, and Denise, you can kind of reflect on those things as well as we get to different places. A little bit the history, right? We are accredited with SACS USC as a graduate institution, important because it sets our standard and quality of education, as well as the guidelines of how we and how much work has to be in each course, how we teach certain assessment pieces as well. DMU really started with this need for a Catholic Christian vision of the person in the mental health field. The recognition of people are kind of walking all over the place without being deeply grounded in a healthy anthropology. So that's kind of that need kind of started the school. Then 2014, we started the online programs, now added the Masters in Counseling online. So that's how the school has developed over the last 20 years. Then this is just a background. I'm Julia Klausli. I'm the program director. I've loved being program director. It's a great program and love our faculty. It's a privilege to work with the DMU people. So it's a real wonderful privilege. Kind of thinking, right, how is the MSP unique? There's a lot of masters in psychology programs out there. And I think, Denise, thank you so much for sharing kind of part of those pieces that stood out to you. But it is fully online. It is very adaptable to our different schedules. And right, probably for you working in a boarding school, in the classroom, we have people who live all over the world. We just had somebody who's in Melbourne, Australia, and we have somebody in Canada and South America. And so being flexible and being able to accommodate people's work and ministry schedules is important to us, because that's the kind of people who are coming to us. The other thing is, kind of like Denise, you mentioned, we are desiring to help build a deeper understanding of the person that is very well integrated from psychology, theology, and philosophy. And yes, you'll be a head start with your doctorate in philosophy, but right, a lot of people do psychology, right? But I think to really get a good understanding of the human person, of when does the human person do well, it really helps to have this integrative, deeper approach and understanding of the person. So I think that really makes our program very unique, all the DMU programs very unique, because you have the opportunity to go further. Psychology is wonderful, and evidence-based psychology is wonderful and very, very important. But you need that more holistic, integrative approach to gain a deeper understanding of the person. The other thing I think where the program is very unique, and as a faculty, we've really worked over the last few years to keep growing and learning from our students and graduates, that we're really trying each faculty member to connect with students. Everybody has an advisor. We meet one-on-one with our advisees several times throughout the program. Love having those relationships. Love meeting with my advisees because I feel I'm always learning something new with the capstone project they're interested in, or they work in ministry settings where they are. We have this kind of formative, continuous learning approach where you read every week, you write every week, you get individualized feedback every week. So it's really this step-by-step formative growth process that we feel is kind of the best way of learning, not just acquiring knowledge, but having also a transformative process while you're in the program. And I think, Denise, it was really helpful you spoke to that it was helpful, not just the knowledge you gained, that was great, but also that you had time and space to think about your own well-being and functioning and how you do things. If you have a thought you want to add to that, or?
Yeah, I mean, everything that's on this slide is absolutely true. As far as the way to learn was really, really helpful and it's, you get into that rhythm. In the beginning, it's a little overwhelming, but then you get into the rhythm of how it all works. And since every course is the same, it's really helpful too. It's not that you have to learn a different format with each professor or a different approach. It's all on the same platform. So that was really, really helpful too. And being able to have the integrative approach, like you said. Obviously, I have a theology background and philosophy, but bringing it all together just makes it so complete and gives a holistic vision.
Excellent. Yeah. Then, kind of in general, right? Why would you get a master's in psychology? I think one is, and Denise, you kind of mentioned that you gain a deeper understanding of yourself as well as others in professional settings or ministry settings, right? And I think part of it is you are able to have a psychological explanation of behavioral phenomena, right? Stuff in the classroom is not that the girls are mean or they are not interested, right? There's something going on why they're acting the way they're acting. And to have a paradigm and to have an understanding of human functioning, all of a sudden behaviors we see, we're like, oh, that actually it's very logical within itself. It's maybe not healthy or not good for the person or the group,
right.
But it's very, very logical within themselves. So you get the opportunity to develop new explanations, right?
Right. And that's been so helpful for my team, right? Because so many times teachers can get just frustrated and angry at students' misbehavior. So being able to give insight to them to help them understand this is what's happening with this girl, and it opens their heart to a heart of mercy, right? And an understanding, just like you were saying, Jasmine. Like once you understand the person, it's so much easier to see them with the heart of God as well, and with much more desire to help instead of just to punish and to try to change behavior.
Yeah, very helpful. And the other thing is, but it's that ability, and that's that evidence-based approach, and also being very research-oriented, is you develop the ability to have innovative solutions for problems, right? That may before you kind of keep hitting a barrier, but you have another paradigm, another way of what exactly is the goal? Are we actually reaching the goal? How would I know if we're reaching the goal? Having those skills to be able to assess that, I think, is hugely helpful, both in ministry and professional settings. And we hear from our graduates that that is really helpful. Then also, we are not a clinical mental health program, right? We don't train for one-on-one week after week counseling interventions. For us, I always have the paradigm is like larger interventions for larger groups of people. It's kind of the paradigm. And part of that is the ability to create environments and cultures that foster flourishing and minimize risk, right? The ability to think and be very intentional on how do I create a positive, create a resilient environment that can foster flourishing. And I think the ability to do that and create those cultures and environments is a huge asset in having the program. So kind of the new content, we've added concentrations over the last few years, mainly because our students and graduates bring needs to us, like, I'm doing this, can you offer something in that area? And we're like, well, we'll try. So by Lord's grace, we've been able to adjust the program the last few years. So we're offering a marriage and family studies concentration, human services, and we'll talk more about each of the concentrations in a minute, leadership, a pre-PhD, and a self-design for those who want to pick and choose their electives. But all probably under that umbrella of applied psychology. How do I use psychology to be a benefit and blessing to others in all kinds of settings? So with that, first of all, we want people to have a really solid core knowledge of psychology, right? You need to be psychologically literate. It's kind of how we say it, right? Basic human growth and development. Am I able to see the person developmentally and where they are in the lifespan? Do I have a basic understanding of psychopathology? What are risk factors? What increases resiliency? Can I recognize and refer, right? We're not going to treat DSM-5 level things that come up, but we need to be able to recognize and know when to refer. And very, very important to have that skill. Cognition, emotion, and motivation, we added that course a few years ago because it's such a foundational understanding of the functioning of the individual. We have the philosophy course, which is kind of that understanding how we support flourishing of the person through a view of vocations and virtues. Then we have stats. I love the class, I teach the class, and it really is that class that moves you from a lay consumer of psychology that you see in a magazine, on a website, to the ability to go to the research literature and go to the source so you become the expert. Takes a little bit of effort, but very, very worthwhile effort, in my opinion. Then we do social psychology, understanding groups, understanding culture, understanding diversity, and how being created in the image of God and being from different places of this world, how do we maneuver those and understand those differences and similarities? And then we do research methodology and design, ability to evaluate programs from an evidence-based background. So that's the core everybody does. Then we do have electives. One of our marriage and family. We have people who work in, they're coordinators of family life at parishes. We have directors of marriage and family offices at the diocesan level. People who do childhood education programs at dioceses, parishes, and just secular in the professional settings. So people who just want to understand the family as a system, but also very concrete interventions applicable to marriage and families. So we have an extra philosophy course in that's Catholic Christian Marriage and Human Sexuality. That is a philosophy course where we really think through the philosophy of and theology of marriage. Then we have our human services track, and that is really, I would say, if you love to help people overcome adversity by connecting them to resources. That's kind of my paradigm for human services. You're working with people, working on people who want to be addictions counselors. That's maybe like you start with clinical hours and work yourself up. You can be a human service professional, rehabilitation work, case management, really, really helpful. You have the skills class, you have group counseling class, and very helpful program for people who want to work in that field. Then we have the leadership and 3 different courses. We come from that transformational leadership approach, virtuous leadership, not the crack down from the top approach. We really have as you model, as you grow in virtue yourself and see the person you're leading, you can create healthy environments and change and lead companies We have quite a few people who are executives of nonprofit agencies. They come and tend to take this program. Human resource management. You can do the SHRM certification. It's just an exam-based certification. And overall psychology degrees are liked in the area of human resources or organizational consultant. So this is when we have some people who are project management in Silicon Valley, and they have come to us and like, I just know computers. I don't know anything about people. Can you help us? So if that's your place, then this is a great concentration. If you are head of a large parish that also includes a Catholic school and a ministry setting, and you have quite a big staff, we have priests who come to us who are like, I'm actually in charge of a lot of people, and I would like some leadership skills. They have found this very helpful and beneficial. And then self-design, a lot of people in ministry choose this. They just want a little pick and choose. One family, marriage family, one applied leadership, one skills class. So that opportunity is there for people to choose different electives. And then this is our pre-PhD. Is this our pre-PhD? Sorry, I can't see. And we've added this actually just this year. We have a growing number of people, they finish their undergrad, they want to go on for doctoral studies, but they want to have an integrative approach to psychology, and they want to set themselves up to getting into better doctoral, a little more competitive doctoral programs. If you come with a thesis, especially if you've been able to publish it, it just is it's just helpful to get into certain doctoral programs. So students in this program, concentration, do a full research project. They have to defend their proposal, defend their thesis, collect data, analyze data. They take 6 one-credit courses over 14 months as they walk through the steps of a research project. So if you like, being a research assistant, research associate, I worked several years at the University of Texas at Dallas, just in a research lab for parent-child interaction analysis, which I learned so much about the family, about parents talking to their kids, was really, really helpful. So that's the pre-PhD. So those are the concentrations. If you have questions about any of the concentrations, follow up with Joe. He knows and has more information on each of that. A little bit on the learning experience is, I think it is very, very flexible. Even though we do have due dates every week and we get feedback every week, but there's continuous access to all the information in Canvas. There's media and there's readings, and there's the possibility to listen now to all the readings through Canvas. We've just added an audiobook feature. So you can have different ways to go through the material. And there's very, very ready feedback and interaction possibilities with the instructors and professors. Yes, just an overview of our wonderful faculty, all of them super committed and just wonderful people to work with. And I think everyone just loves the students that the Lord brings to this program. It's just a huge privilege. And I want to hand it over to Joe, just to what are the steps of getting into the program.
Okay, so thank you, Julia, Dr. Julia, and Denise. And you have to have a bachelor's degree with a 2.5 or better grade average, and then 2 letters of recommendation from people who you work for, and maybe your spiritual advisors or instructors. But it is not a big, they don't have to write a letter. They answer a questionnaire and rate you. We stay consistent on that. Your resume, which tells us about your past and your present. Then a written statement of intent. This is your future. And, it's a 300 to 500 word essay on how your master's degree in psychology will help you achieve your goal. And if English is not your first language, you may have to take a TOEFL. However, if you have taken classes in the US, college level, Dr. Klausli will certainly look at that. And then we do have a virtual, it is mandatory or required, virtual orientation, and that is, we have one coming up 17th and the 19th of August, and it's a big Zoom meeting. With you, your future classmates, Dr. Klausli. It's a question answering, and Dr. Klausli will tell you more about this. I mean, she's told you a lot about it now, but this is it's a 45-minute program. So,
Well, it's a place to ask all your other questions. Oh, how do I move forward and get ready for the program? So
That's
people
right.
always, and that's why we're have added it, because they always still so many questions. So,
that's
so we said we may as well all sit together and answer all the questions together. I think it's a
That's
more
right.
joyful way of moving through those pieces.
But it's very important. Virtual orientation, very important. And as far as is school affordable? Well, when you get to the graduate level, we don't have grants. I mean, we don't have grants for master's degree program for doctorate degrees. But by Mercy tries to level the playing field with we have different scholarships from like a $1,500 early admission scholarships to scholarships you write for, and maybe affiliation through what we call memorandums of understanding. But that's something you have to once you get it apply, not necessarily be accepted. We want to get you with financial aid to make sure it's affordable for you, because we do not want to have any undue hardship financially for you. Okay, and this is our tuition, and it's $850 a credit hour for 30 credits, and comes out 28,050. That's very, very reasonable, and less than many state colleges, public colleges. Then a technology fee of $50 per class. That's for your Canvas, which is our online learning platform. And then we have a residence fee of $250. And this is a 100% online program. But there are 2 days where it's mandatory you are online. It's usually a Friday or Saturday before you end your first term, your first 8-week term. And it's a Friday from 10 to 5 and a Saturday from 10 to 5. And it is a big, like I said, a big Zoom meeting with all your classmates, all the instructors. You break into discussion groups, and it really cements your first class. And then we do have a $55 application fee that can be waived for you. Okay, and then we do have the 16-month option, which is you're taking 2 classes at a time. On the 26-month option, you take 1 class per term. But the difference is if you do the 16 months, it will save around $3,000 in tuition. That's significant in my book. And I call these the big 4 questions. And will the completion of this master's degree in psychology online help you obtain your goals? Well, you gotta know what your goals are. And will this work for you? Will the scheduling work for you? If you take 1 class at a time on the 26-month trip, you're looking at about 15 hours per week of study. What they call research, reading, writing, and reflecting. And the nice thing is you gotta do a lot of writing, but we do have a service that if you send a paper into them, in 24 hours, they'll have it back to you with some suggestions. And, I don't like constructive criticism, but I've heard from it. And will the financial options work for you? You don't know that. You don't know that till you see financial. And if you start the program completed, and then anything you do, there's always going to be, I call it bumps in the road. What? I mean, we have some students, they are in the reserves or National Guards, where they're going to be deployed for 2 weeks every summer. And you know what? When they're deployed, it doesn't they're not deployed during our break time. So, but when, cases like that, you do what you can to get ahead. When you come back, you do what you can to catch. So, and there could be other things as that, and that's me.
Oh, there you go. Great. Thank you so much, Joe. And we'll thank you so much for that overview. Yasim, do you have any questions? I know you'll follow up with Joe as well afterwards. Well, thank you so much, Denise, for sharing your experience and talking about the program together. Really, really appreciate your time, and always nice to see you too.
Good to see you too.
So wish everybody a good night, and thank you so much for coming, and good to see everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Dr.
much.
Julia,
Thank you.
Jazeen, and Denise. Thank you. And we'll all
Thank
be in
you.
touch. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.